like the Agnes Center, it's named after my grandmother because she was very influential, but it's really here because, you know, going through all these experiences, you have to reflect. It's like, what do you really, you know, want to do? Because it's like, I've done a whole bunch of things and I was just sitting there and I was like, I just feel like there's something more to than just doing micro work all the time.
Hi, it's Marcus here for another episode of EIC. I have another esteemed guest here. We're here at
Agnes Youth Family Center.
And I have this guest here. Could you introduce yourself?
Yes. So my name is Kasey. I am the founder of the Agnes Youth Family Center, and our mission is to provide early ed and family support services, and we are located here on 15 East Utica Street, right off of Main.
Got it. So just to get a little bit of your backstory, where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Queens.
Queens, New York.
City, yeah.
What was it like growing up in Queens, New York?
A lot of people ask me that, what it was like, and honestly, it was amazing. And what I can say is there's so much when you grow up in New York City that you don't realize you're exposed to until you leave it. And so that's sort of when I came to Buffalo, I sort of realized that the city is a great place to live. I mean, it has its pros and cons to it. I like it. I mean, looking back at it, the thing is that it forces you and it forces parents for you as a child to be very independent from a very young age. Mm-hmm. So by the time you're 10 and 11, you're going on the bus, the train, getting yourself to school, and that is the luxury the city does offer. And the luxury the city does offer is the fact that parents don't have to drive their kids everywhere. Mm-hmm. I would say probably over the last 3 years, it's become more of a safety reason that parents are doing it. Okay. But really, when I was growing up, we would, all the neighborhood kids would walk to school together. It's sort of, there wasn't a whole lot of reliance on your parents. Okay. And that is what the city does offer. That's cool. It is, and isn't until you leave the city.
All right. So how old were you when you took your first train by yourself?
Probably 10 or 11.
10? Where was it going? If you can remember that far back.
I had to be going to maybe Brooklyn or Ridgewood. Okay.
So what grammar school or high school you went to? And
so my grammar and middle school were the same.
Okay.
So I went to PSIS 87 in Queens, and then I went to Queens Metropolitan High School. Okay. That is technically, I think it's considered Forest Hills technically, but it's on a border between a couple neighborhoods. And then my middle school is located in Middle Village, but we would have kids from Glendale, where I'm from, or Ridgewood come in. Okay. And then at Queens Metro, you had kids coming from, a lot of kids from Jamaica, Howard Beach, Ozone Park, Glendale, Ridgewood, some from Forest Hills, not many though. Mm-hmm. And then Flushing was also a big one.
So it was like a melting pot, huh?
It's a melting pot. That's what I said, living in the city is a melting pot. And the other thing is I can say that I truly grew up in a diverse scene, and I realized that when I came to Buffalo, and as I continue to talk to people and their experience, because in my high school and in my middle school, there was a mix of everyone. Okay. I would say predominantly in my neighborhood at the time, it was pretty much a mix between Spanish, Puerto Rican, Dominican, and then I would also say it was a mix of Polish. There is Italian, but it's not really our area. It's more Maspeth. Okay. So it's a neighboring neighborhood. And then, but now it's gotten even more diverse. Now we've had a lot of Asian people move into the neighborhood. And especially over the last 3 years, you're seeing a lot more Muslims coming into the neighborhood. So now it's becoming a true melting pot, whereas before I would say it was mostly just a mix of like different European and Spanish. And then in my high school,
Where was high school? It's the same. Was it the same or different?
No, it was different. It was Queens Metro. And then when we got to high school, because now you had more kids coming from different neighborhoods, now even more melting pot. I mean, you had everything. Like there.
In your graduating class, how many graduated?
I think like 500 or so.
My word. And
we were a small one.
Really?
We were small, yeah. Like Forest Hills High School, theirs is like 1,100.
Oh, wow. Wow. So when you graduated, you were in middle school, you decided to go to high school. Was it matriculated or did you have a major?
So when I graduated high school, I decided to go into nursing originally. Okay. But when I was a senior in high school, my senior year was turned upside down because that's when my boyfriend got diagnosed with cancer. So my senior year was spent at that. So senior year, you didn't have to go for the full 8 periods. You usually had 6 periods, but really you had 5 because the last period they would give you would be lunch, so you could leave after 5th.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
And you had the train. You can leave and go anywhere you want.
Yeah, there's a lot, and that's the other thing. Growing in the city is a lot of freedom, and so you learn that very young. And I would say that's carried me with me because like I'm so used to always like just go do what I want, and like being able to go and travel, and so you grow a lot of like being self-independent when you're from the city because it's on you. Like I don't know.
It's on you.
Yeah, it's on you.
So you initially wanted to be a nurse. What changed that?
It was that experience because when I was a senior in high school, he got diagnosed with cancer, and so. Prom looked different. We actually thought like he wasn't gonna go to prom. I was gonna go to prom solo.
Okay.
But he decided last minute to go. There was no. I mean, now looking back, it doesn't really matter. But at high school, I was so excited. I was like, oh, like my boyfriend, like we were excited for our senior year, doing all these senior activities, and a lot of that just went out the window.
I got it.
So there's a lot of things I got to.
So you and your boyfriend, I wasn't gonna go into that, but. How you met in high school?
Yeah.
What year?
Sophomore year.
Sophomore year.
We met in sophomore year, started dating like the summer of junior year.
Okay. So what made him special out of all other guys?
He was different. He didn't have a clique, a group, and he was more mature for his age. He also, a lot of the kids that came into my high school, I knew a lot of them either from Ridgewood or Glendale or something, or like you met them and but he was different because he didn't he was an outsider because he didn't go to a common middle school. He was the only one from his middle school that, came to Metro. And so that's what made him different, but also the fact that his maturity and sort of his interests, and sort of he also liked to be very independent and not really follow crowds.
What did he want to be?
He wanted to go into real estate.
Got it.
So going back to that senior year, the teachers, everyone was knew what was going on. So really after 3rd period, I would leave, get a train, go into Manhattan, and be at the hospital all day. I was able to do my work a lot remotely because those last 2 periods, one of them was, so I didn't need to take a math. I was done with my math. So
you're smart like that.
I was on math, but they put me in math to fill my schedule. And so senior year was very different because a lot of people, and I was also maybe mature and grow up a lot, and so that made me a big oddball compared to everyone else because no one really understood what it's like to go through or the adult situations you're faced with when you have to go through something like this. And then made my way, but then at the same time when that happened, my grandmother also got sick, so I wound up taking on a caregiving role with her.
Oh wow.
So this
is Agnes.
Yeah, so this is both of them were sick at the same time. So I took on a caregiving role. I was in the hospital a lot. I was working with their social workers, their counselors, and I was their point person. So that, and then I also had I never had a fear of needles until I went through all this stuff with my grandmother and Dan, and now if there's like a needle, I'll faint.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Like I could get a shot and I'll be fine, but if you gotta take blood, I faint instantly.
Oh, wow. I don't like blood either. I actually, growing up, wanted to be a doctor.
Really?
But because you can explain something that may be grueling, or even me going to go get my blood drawn, it makes me nauseous.
Yeah, because, you know, when they were both sick, you know, they hated the needles and they were constantly poked and prodded and they were missing things. And my grandmother would always make this face every time because they could never get in her arm. They had to do it in her hand. It was really painful. So now anytime I could see a needle, well, not see a needle, but if I have to get blood drawn or, you know, for example, my fiance now, he has to go sometimes because he has asthma and stuff like that. And I have to like leave the room because I took him one time and I wound up fainting. I wound up having to get myself checked into the hospital because I fainted in my head.
Oh my goodness.
So I can't be there.
Yeah, got it. So when did he pass away?
Passed away in 20...
After high school?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what happened was with that is after high school, technically we graduated in June. He finished treatment up like the last month of June, first week of July, and was still determined to go away to school. And at this point, I didn't really make any decisions because the stuff's going on with my grandmother, stuff's going on with Dan. I didn't really know, you know, where I was gonna go to college or whatever. But I would say it's like my parents and like my family that was like, well, you still have to like they didn't pressure me to like figure out what I want to do, but they were like, you can't just
pause your life.
Pause your life. Like you've got a lot to go. And I knew that, and like Dan was a big proponent of that too. Like, no, Kasey, you still got to do. Like he went to college, so like we kind of, I would say, he kind of sort of kept me in check with that because it was like, yeah, I'll go to college. So I mean, I already was gonna go, but I just didn't really know where I was going. So I settled and I took a scholarship to go to St. Joseph's in Brooklyn because, again, like it was like, I didn't really know where everything was. Everything was so up in the air. I absolutely hated my first day being there. I told my mom, I said, I made a mistake coming here. People were not my people, you know, nothing wrong with it, but they just all grew up very privileged and they did not understand what it means to, I would say, be a normal person.
What is normal?
I think normal is like just not getting stuff handed to you. Like you have to be able to relate to a person.
I get it.
You know, like they had no concept of what that was.
Yeah, it was like I get everything at my beck and call or something like.
But also the work that has to go into it to build. Like if they were failing classes, they didn't care. You get what I'm saying?
I got it.
If they would be,
it wasn't hard hitting as it is with someone who has to have accountability.
Yeah. Or another perfect example is like I had a commute. And there's nothing wrong with taking the train, but they would make you feel like some type of way for taking the train because all of them had cars.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But
for what reason in a city? I don't know.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I could not afford a car. And like even to get my first car, I had to save up I got to work for all these things. So that's what I mean. Like you need someone that can relate, like to put in the work and, you know, truly want it versus. And that's like something I've noticed. It's like there's not, you know, people that get things handed to them. There's nothing wrong with that. But I feel like there needs to be a lesson taught of like understanding the work behind it, like to appreciate it more.
Yeah. So how do you think the fact that you had to work for everything has affected you in the person that you are today?
It's definitely created and formed my work ethic, and everything I do is intentional for that. So, you know, kind of going back into, you know, my college trajectory, I started, quote unquote, as a nursing major. Okay.
In college?
Yeah.
Okay.
When we got to the needle part, that's when we realized, I was like, yeah, no, and that was an immediate trigger.
That had effect on the fact that you pivoted from that because of the needles.
It pivoted?
Do you think it was because of the experience with your grandmother and Dan that changed that?
Well, it was also that too. It was the fact that the fact that I'd worked with other social workers, the fact that I've seen, you know, what it was like to be in the mental field. But then also a perfect thing is when you were 18, because I knew I wanted to be a nurse. I need to get some medical experience. So when you're 18, you can be a phlebotomist. So I got my phlebotomy, and I was fine doing that. Because
Nothing but needles.
I know, but here's the thing. I was fine doing that because we hadn't gotten to the point yet where needles became a trigger for me.
Okay.
And it's still something I have to work through. It's kind of something that won't happen. It's just exposure therapy, essentially.
I get it.
Like, there's nothing that can, like, I mean, the only thing I can really do is try to cope with it, but, like, to get over it is just exposure. That's what it is. So I was like, I need to get some sort of medical experience. And then right around this time was when COVID happened, too. So I started college in 2019, August of 2019. Then 2020 hit, we all wound up going home, but I transferred out my first semester into UB because I hated it so much.
Being here?
Yeah, I hated St. Joseph so much that I transferred to UB. And my cousin went to UB, and Dan went to UB, and I knew friends that went to UB, so I had come up to UB prior to, and I really just like fell in love with it.
So Dan decided to come here from the city initially.
And we told people he had alopecia. That's why he was bald.
Okay.
Because he didn't want people knowing he was sick.
Okay.
And then COVID happened, so we all wound up going home anyway.
So that's how you ended up here. Okay. UB. All right. So then you were studying nursing at UB, or?
I switched at UB to Health and Human Service, concentration in child development.
All right.
And that's where we get into that. And that's when I got into the early ed and doing mental health, and really that's where I found my passion for mental health, along with, going through eventually when he passed away.
What year did he pass?
2021.
2021? After COVID?
During COVID.
Oh, during COVID.
So what happened is COVID happened, we all came home, and then September of 2020, we were allowed to come back up to college.
Okay.
So me and him came back up into the dorm rooms and stuff like that, and he told me, like, Kasey, like, I was like, I think I need classes. Like, why? He's like, because my vision's kind of blurry. So I was like, okay. So I was like, it was like a routine visit. He went, the doctor, they couldn't figure out why his vision was blurry. So then he went to the hospital, and because of his history, they were like, let's do a CT scan. They did a CT scan, and there was a tumor behind his eye. It went into his brain.
Oh, my word.
So the cancer spread, and then he had to go back into treatment. I went back home, and it was just a downfall ever since then. Eventually, his whole body lit up like a Christmas tree, and it was just hospice, ambulance, back to hospital. Then we tried respite and all this. Didn't work because the tumors kept growing, and eventually it got to a point where they were growing on his spine and his bladder, and he was losing like all sorts of control.
Oh,
so
man.
And the kind of cancer he had it's one of the most painful ones because it's bone cancer. So the tumors grow in your bone, so they literally fracture and break them as they're growing.
I'm so sorry you had to go through that.
Yeah. So that was pretty life-changing. So, and at the same time, that's when...
That his body lit up like a Christmas tree. Help me understand that.
When they went to the CT scanner, I say lit up like Christmas tree because there's cancer everywhere.
Oh, I see.
So it wasn't like, oh, we can address this one. It's everywhere. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Did that run in his family, or it was unique to him?
It's unique to him.
Wow.
They actually found out he had the tumor growing for about a year before he even realized it, and when it first happened. But I mean, no one can necessarily say, how did he get it, what did he get it? But what we kind of found out was the age had started to grow, and the type of cancer he had is common amongst males while they're growing into like young adults. So during those growth spurts is when, for the type of cancer he had and where it was, is like, he was like a textbook case in the wrong way.
Gotcha.
Like a textbook case of like, this is going to end bad, not a textbook case of this will end well.
Gotcha. I understand.
Yeah.
So how did you get over that?
You don't. I would say you learn to cope with it.
I should have said it in a better way, but...
Yeah, no, you don't. You learn to cope with it because it's... Losing a partner is different than losing, like... I mean, I don't know what it's like to lose a parent, but like to lose a grandparent or even an uncle or a close family friend or even like a cousin or something like that. It's different because they're your partner, right? Mm-hmm. And then especially if you go through something like cancer and you go through end of life care, you go through, you know, the ups and downs of health, and you kind of just learn. It's like, yeah, it sounds cheesy, but you learn to cope with it because you have to learn to like life doesn't stop. And I think at the age I was at when it happened, I was at such a pivotal age at my time because now I was 19 when it happened. And I had still like half of my schooling to get through. And my grandmother wound up passing a year right before he did. So he got sick when we were seniors. My grandmother got sick 6 months after he got sick, and then she just wound up passing away within like 6 months of that.
She had cancer too?
No. She actually, the reason she passed away was actually a complication from when she did have cancer years ago. So she had bladder cancer years ago. And they had to remove her bladder, so she had a pouch there. But when they did that, they had her move around her organs. And eventually what happened is she wound up developing a hernia, and this was after the cancer. Well, because of where the cancer was and how they had to like reconfigure things, the hernia was in a very, I don't want to say dangerous spot, but it was a very like intricate and delicate spot, because it was, if we remove it, we may, like, there's a lot of cons, and right now it's not, and a hernia is one of those things where, I mean, I think you should always just get it removed if you can, but it's one of those things that like you can leave it and it could be fine for years, and then something happens and it's not. And so it was up to her, obviously, and she decided like, it's not bothering me, it's fine. They didn't want to take the risk, because the risk of was you'll die if we take this out, because of where it is, her age at the time, and all these other things. That was the risk. We were just like, at the time she was like 72.
Oh, okay.
So the risk was like, if this doesn't turn out right, you'll die, or they'll be fine. And she was like, well.
How long did she live?
8 years.
8? Oh, okay.
After that.
I guess it was worth it.
Yeah. Because the reason she wound up passing away was, so when she got sick, what happened is she took a fall. And I feel like this always happens when people take a fall. She took a fall, and then she was in rehab, and she went fine. And then she got sepsis in rehab.
They're not very good at taking care of the elderly, and yeah.
So then she had to go back. And at this point she already had like a hip replacement. The reason why she had to go back into it, because like she fell on the hip, she had the hip replacement. So she had to go back into rehab. And she wasn't like doing well. She was feeling great, you know, and a lot of it was the sepsis stuff. And then they took care of the sepsis. And then she was healing, but the hernia was becoming a problem. And then what did her in was that the hernia wound up twisting.
Oh my word. And it was in her bladder, or?
It was around her intestines.
Oh,
so it twisted, and it literally twisted her whole intestine.
So you have obstruction of bowel?
Yeah, and then her kidneys couldn't properly filter, because when they had to rearrange her organs at the time, when the hernia twisted, it basically blocked all access to everything, like the way it was in her organs and the way it had like twisted, and I guess like around the blood vessels and all that other stuff too. And so they had said, you know, we have to do the surgery. because like otherwise you will die. So it was a die or die situation. So she was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. She never woke up.
Oh, so sorry.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it takes me a while.
I got it. Take your time.
I haven't talked about it in like years. Okay. So she got sick, passed away. Dan, 9 months after that is when his cancer came back, and then he passed away. So it was just like a lot of loss. So what I did was I threw myself into work. Because people say like, how did you finish an undergrad in 3 years? Because I threw myself into work. So I did an undergrad. I finished my undergrad in 3 years. While I was doing that, I went and I got an internship at the Research Institute at UB, the Children's Institute. And that's where I learned a lot of my lesson planning, and I learned how to do interventions and make portfolios. And then I also, because of my concentration, which is really cool about UB, is when you do a child development, you get to do, you have to take 8 courses. You can take 8, all of them in doing early education or teaching or, whatever grade where you want to do. Or you can do mental health, go more that route, or you can do like a mix of both, or you can even go into like speech.
Okay.
So I did a mix. And so I did early education, I did lesson planning development, I did my internship at the Early Child Research Institute. I took like a couple classes about like early child brain development and like the impact. Like one of them was on mental health, more so like impact of ACEs and development of that. Other ones like just milestones to look for and where they should be on track, and interventions that could be put in place to help kids get on track for that.
Okay.
Then I took grief and loss counseling. That was both for me and for my practice eventually.
Okay.
Everyone deals with loss.
Yeah, we do.
And then I did play therapy. I did adolescent and like teenagers, and I really liked doing that kind of stuff. That was fun. Then afterwards I went and I did some traveling, because one of my things is like I love to travel. So
Where have you been?
I've been all over. So when Dan passed away, he didn't have much, but he left me the rest to go travel. So, and now I'm 24, and I think, with that money, could I have invested it? Could I have done other things with it? Yeah, but he left it for me to go travel, and I don't regret spending it on travel at all.
All right.
I mean, now that I'm older, I think of it like, oh, I could have spent it on this, but
that's what he told you to do.
do with it. I did it.
So where did you go?
So I actually did, so my parents and my family, we always wanted to go to Ireland. So I wind up kind of doing like tracing my roots, and my parents and my uncles and a couple of my cousins, my aunt is big into ancestry. So she got connected with this guy in Ireland.
Okay.
But we didn't know it, but she knew that he was like a historian and stuff like that. But what we didn't know was that he's from a pretty well-off family in Ireland.
Okay.
And I guess from whatever conversations he's had with my aunt or something like that, like he was just so blown away by our family's like history that he like traced a lot of stuff for us and kind of did our lineage. And
wow.
we wound up.
That's cool.
And then he does tours of like Ireland, because he just like, he's a historian buff, so he loves just doing tours. Like that's his like thing. Like he loves doing it. So he took my family and he gave us a whole trip of all of Ireland, and then also in that trip he made it very special and he put stops along of our ancestors tracing it throughout Ireland.
Oh my word.
And like our journey and stuff like that, and like how we got eventually to where we are.
Blew you away, huh?
Yeah.
And you got to take this with the family. Ha.
Yeah.
Amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
And when was this? If you can recall.
23.
2023.
Yeah, 23.
After COVID.
Yeah. 23.
After the world changed.
Yeah, it's
Telling you.
23. And that was an amazing experience. See, like on my mom's side, we know a lot of stuff. Even though a lot of it is ugly, we still know a lot of the stuff.
It's your story.
Yeah, we still know a lot of the stuff. I mean, and I'm proud of it too. Like some people aren't proud to talk about it. Like I'm proud to talk about it. Like even like things that my parents grew up with and stuff like that, and stuff that they talk about and stuff. I mean, I won't talk about it on camera, but stuff like that, my uncles and stuff that I'm proud of it because, and from what I learned with the Irish is like we're just survivors. Like we've just survived our whole way. Even coming here, like the reason, and this was pretty cool. My grandfather, his parents, they during World War I, and what a lot of people don't know is that Ireland and England have always kind of been in like a civil war with each other. And because of bombings, my great-grandparents, they were put in orphanages when they were young because of it. And they wind up traveling to America.
Oh, wow. Because
like they had nothing there. They were like, what is it?
that's how we got here. It was bombing. Let's go. Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But they grew, so my great-grandparents, you know, their family, because of the bombs, like they were put in orphanages. So that's where my great-grandparents met. And then they like left and came to America.
Okay. Where do they go first? New York City?
Brooklyn. It's the stereotypical story.
Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Here we come.
Yeah. And like my aunt wound up reconnecting with a cousin, a long lost cousin.
Okay.
And so when the bombs happened, they wound up going to an orphanage in Scotland because a lot of people, like Ireland, Scotland, there's a lot of like mixing of like people travel a lot. I mean, don't get me wrong, like the Irish people and the Scottish people, they have their own separate ways, but they'll travel a lot and move around.
Got it.
So they got put in the orphanage over there.
Okay.
I think that's just because probably where
they were.
Probably just
Yeah.
like the closest one or whatever.
I have some Irish in me. I did my ancestry, so it'll be interesting to go there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you got to go there. I'm envious.
Yeah. So we went.
So, besides Ireland, where else did you get a chance to travel to?
So my dad is Swedish,
Okay.
and you would never know it because he's American. I could tell you that.
Okay.
Because his parents, you know, they grew up this is what the thing is, like when a lot of what I'm noticing is like just when a lot of other cultures and like when my great-grandparents, people traveled over, they sort of just adopted the American way and left their old ways behind.
Which is not really good.
No, now we know that. But like to think that I could know how to speak Swedish, like that would be nuts. Because people saw my last name and thought I knew how to speak Swedish, and I was like, I have no
idea
how to speak Swedish.
Yeah.
And I also found out that my last name, technically, where I have the T, is supposed to be an F.
Really?
But it's a T, and I'm guessing that had to happen at Ellis Island at some point.
They should sometimes like they change it.
Because a lot of families have had that happen.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I feel like that probably is what happened.
What is your last name again?
Gustaveson.
Because I thought it was supposed to be an F. Really? Wow. Did the historian trace the different last names with the different spellings?
So the historian only did Ireland. I just know Sweden because I went. So that was like, this was like the summer chasing my roots.
Okay.
So after Ireland, I went to Sweden and Denmark on myself, and I backpacked.
Okay.
And to learn more about
Your dad's side.
Yeah, because we don't really know anything.
Oh, okay.
Side.
It's like a
Big question mark.
Okay.
Like a big question mark. Like,
And what did you discover?
there really isn't much. I think I need to like hire a historian to probably dig around some more.
Need your aunt to get another connection.
Yeah, get my because I mean that stuff's not cheap either.
No,
but it's something that's definitely worth it.
To have it in, and to have it in is the best.
Yeah.
And that's how you're gonna get that stuff out of the out of the court. Yes, gotta have it in. So, fast forwarding to the inspiration for Agnes Family
Center
came from UB,
yes.
from your studies.
So it started from my studies. I didn't realize it, but it really, talking about it, it really is just like from all like the self-discovery I've had to do afterwards.
Okay.
And then after I graduated, I went to...
What year was this that you graduated? You're too young not to remember.
No, because they all get kind of blurry, the timeline. Because technically I finished my schooling in December, but
December of?
That's what I'm trying to think. 22?
Okay.
December 22. Because, but technically my degree wasn't conferred until 23.
Okay.
Even though I finished my classes in December 22.
Why?
Just because when I finish my class this summer, they don't confer it until like the start of like spring semester. So like
you be in their rules.
Yeah. And it's also because I graduated early, and they don't necessarily like it when you graduate early because you fuck up their academic plan for you. And the
Ching ching. We got a whole dynamics of what the math is not. How did you do this so fast? I know, because I went through EOP. And they had you taking 4 classes, but you need 120 some credits. And if you're taking 4 classes, how many semesters? The math wasn't math. And I'm like, I need to control over this. Otherwise, I'm just going to be a cash cow. Yeah, exactly. And then the scholarships will run out and you're like, I can't pay this. So I had to take some summer courses. How did you do it in 3 years? How many courses were you taking? What was the course load?
See, now this is the one benefit about growing up in the city, is that New York City, between the CUNY schools, they had an agreement. And now, I don't know who paid for this. It came out of the city's money. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But essentially what they did is select schools was able to participate in what they call the College Now program. Mm-hmm. So certain participating CUNY community colleges, essentially our teachers we had in high school, ones that were willing to teach a college course to high schoolers.
That's what you got.
High schoolers.
That was your way again.
Yeah.
Get it for free.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So you had to, obviously you had to qualify. So our high school teachers, they were getting paid through that program, through the CUNY schools, to teach us the classes.
Mm-hmm. They want the money, so they're going to teach.
They're going to teach it. Because it probably was cheaper than them having to send a college professor or hire someone as an adjunct to come teach us.
Differentiate your...
Well, and it was also better because our teachers knew us. They also knew our level and, that they were going to teach us college stuff and, like, how do we adjust it so this way you can complete the core competencies and, like, how do we get you up to speed kind of thing. And so I will say we had great teachers and we also had great support staff. So my school was selected as one and one of the first to participate. So we had the College Now program. So I was able, starting junior year, getting up early at 6:50 in the morning. You're gonna start doing college.
Sacrifice.
Yeah, but I left with having a whole semester done.
Oh,
for free.
That's what I'm talking about. Yes.
For free.
Spare dollars put to good use.
Yeah, because every kid that participated in it, whether or not they went off to college, they have some college credits.
Yes, exactly. You have some experience. You can never say you'd never tried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did that.
And it worked out to your advantage.
Yeah. And so, so then I went into, when I graduated, I became a lead teacher at a lead toddler teacher at a daycare, actually. Well, daycare / preschool. So I had like 3-year-olds. So technically it was like 3K that you're teaching, because now it's like a big thing teaching 3K. But I had it when it was like in the intro phases.
Yeah, the experiment.
Yeah, the experiment phases of what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah,
so I can tell you what works and what doesn't work.
Get rid of.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was doing that, and then after I finished the whole school year doing that, I went to Indonesia, and I
just went to Indonesia.
And I did.
You just said it so nonchalantly.
I taught health education in the rural villages there.
Wow.
And that's sort of where the other lens of, now I have this background in, early childhood education and mental health, but now this sort of added the other layer to it. And then I went for master's social work.
Okay. This is your master's?
Yeah, so now I went for master's of social work.
This started in 2024?
23.
23. End of 23?
Yeah, like August.
Okay.
August,
all right.
23.
I'm following the time.
Yeah, no, like there's a lot of things that happen like simultaneously.
I get it.
That I just have like built up. It's like, oh, this happened. Well, this happened.
Got it.
Yeah, because I'm not trying to miss anything.
So how long were you in Indonesia?
So, 2 months.
Okay. How was it?
It was good. I loved it. I loved it. To that, and then when I came back, I started. Well, technically, I did Indonesia before I became a lead teacher, but
Okay.
and then that's kind of what made me go into the Masters of Social Work, like that community building aspect and things like that. Then City of Buffalo. Then when I came to get my Master's of Social Work, I started working as a case manager for a new grant department. So the agency I worked for always had a housing department, but they had just gotten a grant to do SUD housing specifically. And so I started as a case manager. So the agency I was at, they've always had a housing division.
Okay.
But they took on a grant to do specifically housing for SUD and SMI and then all these other supports. So we were like a special...
Defragment the acronyms.
SUD stands for substance use disorder, and then SMI is for severe mental illness.
Okay.
So to qualify for our housing program, you needed to have one of the 2 diagnoses, and what qualified as a severe mental illness diagnosis. There's a list of that qualify you for that.
Got it.
And then we also gave you a care package, and then we also did support services in addition to you. So we was like a complete holistic package.
Okay.
Before I came on, though, they did have a team that was doing it for about a year, but it wasn't being executed properly. So they basically cleaned house and brought a whole new team.
All right.
That's where we are.
And you're involved in that new team.
Yeah.
So what did you guys do different?
We had to create a whole new intake packet, a whole new policy procedures, update documents, a sign-in and check-off sheet that clearly showed that the individual got the care package, the items that were going into it. If, we were missing an item that was clearly marked, initial date, like we implemented systems essentially.
That's what's going to make me successful.
Then we had weekly meetings, and the VP would come in, and she was very transparent with us too. And I will say the thing though we were constantly scolded on was our budget, and it's not really to our fault because the budget was set that the program said 70% we cover of rent, 30% the individual covers.
Okay.
But they didn't take into account for the inflation that happened with rent. Mm-hmm. So we were constantly over budget for that. But that's something you can't, how can you?
Unless you foresee or bake it in.
Yeah, which you do, because you do put for a 10% increase.
Okay.
But housing did not increase 10%.
What did it?
It increased exponentially. You went from when we had, for example, an FMR, fair market rate. When the grant was originally written, the fair market rate at the time was 7 something. When I started, the fair market rate was already up to 820. By the time I left, the fair market rate was 1,200.
Oh, wow.
You don't plan for that kind of growth.
How could they put a contingency in there for those inflation rates?
Well, this is where it gets complicated with grants. Depending on what the grant is, it's like you can't get more grant funds, so you kind of have to go to other funders and ask them and present to it, or you have to see, like, does your agency have an endowment? Like, where can they pull funding from? What other things? Because you could go back to the funder, but the thing was, it's a federal grant.
Gotcha.
And and that gets a little more complicated when it comes to federal grant.
Yeah, they're very stringent.
Yeah, and it's pretty much like set in stone.
Yeah.
At that point. So that was that.
Yeah.
But while I was up at Self too, I got involved in different committees there, and got a lot involved in like macro practice. Then I got involved in like counseling because I was able to start doing that. So I was able to get my KSAC, which is a counsel and substance abuse counseling. I was able to get that, and then I was able, because now I was getting my master's and I worked at a behavioral health agency, I was able to actually go into clinics very early on because I had a lot of other trainings under my belt. I had like youth mental health training, first aid training.
I had access because of your experience.
Yeah. So I took advantage of that. And because I had the KSAC, I was able to levy that too, because I've taken counseling trainings. Obviously it wasn't for children, but like I've taken counseling training. So I have some skill, obviously.
Yeah, that's gonna be more experience and exposure.
With the KSAC, I got my Seeking Safety Support Group certificate to lead support groups. So I had credentials, had qualifications. So I was able to get in early with that. And then what that allowed me to do was leave Best Self for my last year. And I was able to actually get a paid fellowship, and then UB actually contracted me and I started doing some work for them.
Oh, wow.
So,
got it.
I worked to my benefit with that.
So you touched on the background for the Youth and Family Center. However, where did the grant writing come in?
That came in when I was at Best Self.
Okay.
I got my mentor, Gwen Curry. I met with her, and she, for a year and a half, she trained me in grant writing, and I got grant writing certificates. She told me what programs to go to, built up like capacity building leadership, and she really helped make sure like I was set for this, because like the Agnes Center, it's named after my grandmother because she was very influential, but it's really here because, going through all these experiences, you have to reflect. It's like, what do you really, want to do? Because it's like, I've done a whole bunch of things and I was just sitting there and I was like, I just feel like there's something more to than just doing micro work all the time. And then sort of when I went and I studied abroad and I learned sustainable development goals and how community centers are implementing it, it was like a light bulb went off.
Okay.
And so then while I was at myself, I started working with Gwen and we started putting the plan together.
And Gwen is the one with the grant writing.
Yeah, she really helped me with that.
And this is 2024?
23.
Okay.
This is like, we're at the end of 20. No, okay, we're in the beginning of 24.
Okay.
Actually halfway through 24 at this point.
I'm listening.
Yeah, we're halfway through at 24 at this point.
Okay.
2024 at this point when I got introduced to Gwen. Because I knew all I wanted to do after working like in housing, because I was working with substance use. But I was working in the SUD housing team is what we were called. And I was working with parents and I was working with children. And even working as counseling as a teacher, I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to work with children. I'll work with adults to some sort of capacity, but I want to work with kids. And I was like, I loved when I was like being a lead teacher in 3K and I loved the littles. I was like, this is what I want to do. And I know this is what I want to do. And I know then from my experience, at Best Self and having to take on leadership roles there, that I could do it. And having to be a lead toddler teacher, having to have already that leadership, having to then, do all these international experiences where you do have to take on a leadership role and teaching classes, implementing lesson plans, working with a team. I was like, I can do it. Mm-hmm. And Gwen actually used to run a lot of the summer camps here in the city of Buffalo.
Okay.
So
this Best Self is here.
Best Self is here, yeah.
Okay.
But Gwen used to run a lot of summer camps, so I knew how to do the work, but I needed the business side of things, right? Mm-hmm. And so Gwen helped me build that out, like the business lens, and that's why I took advantage. And my last year at UB, like I finished the classes early. I just had to finish up my clinical hours over the last year.
That's like your track record.
Yeah, I always have classes early. I always do. Because really when you're getting a master's in social work, it's not really classes, it's about hours. And so the clinical hours is what killed me, trying to get all those in. So it took me 3 years to get my MSW instead of 2 years.
What does MSW stand?
Master's in social work.
Okay.
And I was just getting hours, but I took advantage because I was still technically a student. So I was able to, and they don't tell you this, but you can cross over different schools. So I was able to take some business classes.
Oh yeah, you can.
Yeah, you can.
Any CUNY school, you can go and take the courses, and if it matches, you can match it up.
Yeah. So I did that.
There needs to be some type of college guide that tells you the nuances.
There really needs to
can
be.
Do with being a student at a school. You can take, if you're at Buff State, you can take stuff at UV. You can take stuff at ECC. You can, as long as it matriculates, you're able to match it up and be able to take advantage of being a student at one school and still get the experience.
And that's exactly what I did. And I took all these managers. So I got my nonprofit board leadership credential through UB, took advantage of that. And that also, when you get that credential, you have to work with a nonprofit. So I actually worked at Goodwill in C-suite and with the board, and I developed their planned giving policy, and I learned more of the infrastructure from that perspective. And Tom is a great mentor. He runs Goodwill. He's great to mentor you in leadership. And
Tom, what is Tom's full name?
Tom Ulbrich.
Tom Ulbrich. Shout out to Tom.
Yeah, he's great. He's so smart. And when you just see his vision of Goodwill and his vision on leadership and his take on it, it's really how leadership should be, because he sees about coaching your team to get to the finish line and not necessarily replacing team or getting people up to the skill level they need or being able to grow their skills. And as long as they're coachable and you can work with them, he wants to work with you, which I like. And he pulls strengths from his team, which is what a leader's supposed to do, is pull strengths from your team and learn how.
Teach you how to use your capabilities that you have, but you don't know you have.
Exactly.
And accentuate them so that it builds to the vision. Exactly.
So, I've learned a lot from leadership through him as well. And just through the various mentors in Buffalo, because Buffalo is such a giving and caring city. I've been very lucky and fortunate to be in the rooms with some people, get to talk to some people, even meetings I have next week. I'm very fortunate to have those meetings and talk to those people and being able just to have the chance to speak with them. And really, that's how the Agnes Center came to be. I knew I wanted to work with kids.
So we're 24, 25.
We're 26 now.
We're getting here. All right.
Yeah. So then in 24, after mentorship with Gwen, I finally filed.
What is Gwen's whole name?
Curry.
Gwen Curry?
Yeah.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, probably. She's a grant lady.
Okay.
She's known as the grant lady.
Gwen Curry. All right.
So in 24, we got our 501c3 status, which is very exciting. And we just filed. And then in 25, we had our first board, our starting board. And we've since then has gone through a couple of changes in board members. 3 of the founding members are still here. The other are gone and we've, replaced. And it's just no hard feelings. It's just different skill level and, yeah. And I think there's just, people don't necessarily realize the time commitment that goes into it at first. And, and that's fine. You learn as you go. And there isn't a single person I haven't met that hasn't said they went through a different board after their first board. Everyone, every organization I know has, especially when they're first starting. So in 25, we were able to build our infrastructure, our board. And then we were able to start serving the community. And we did our food and clothing pilot program out of this building. And then we did a bunch of our events that we partnered with other orgs. We went up serving over 400 families. And we're really here to build the early ed center. I mean, that is just, time. And, thankfully, through our board we have now and through some of the funding we were able to receive. And a lot of it has been thanks to the owner of this building, who I won't say his name because he likes to remain silent, but he's a big reason of why this is happening, because has a lot of personal connections. One of his business partner passed away from cancer a few years ago, and his sister was actually killed at the top shooting. So he has a lot of love for this community and really wants to see things done right. And he knows that this used to be an old CAO, and he knows that whatever is going to go in here is going to be childcare something. As you see in the building, like what it's going to be something with children,
Yeah.
whether it's after school programming or something. And when I presented to him the Agnes Center and the idea behind it, and the idea about holistic care and not just doing early ed, but doing, food access, clothing access, therapy, and, explain to him that I worked in Indonesia as a health education volunteer. And yes, I did education, but guess what? There were social workers there. There were people there that also provided food and clothing. And then when I went to Costa Rica, the reason why community center is there is because they look at the person as a whole person and not just, we're just treating this one thing, right? And so that's sort of the concept I'm recreating here. And so he really liked that.
It's kind of like the Jesus mentality. He healed the people so that they could be able to receive his message.